we'll see that the line of storms will essentially fire up. Question is, does Chicago get into the severe weather? And this is going to be by evening, about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock our time, so 8, 7 o'clock their time. Going to determine, does Chicago actually get into the severe weather or not? Or does it happen mainly to the south and to the east? And then finally, what you're getting behind it is going to be a shot of another chilly shot for the northern plains. As of earlier this week, I want to say Monday or Sunday, Edmonton, Alberta, I believe, got 9 centimeters of snow, which broke their daily record of 8.6 centimeters of snow, which in turn is just continuing to make it its snowiest September on record. Over the last several weeks, they've been getting several centimeters of snow that they've finally been able to break the record out there, and that stuff keeps making dive shots into the northern plains and northern or upper Midwest. So that line will go and will continue to march eastward towards the Detroit, Columbus area for tonight. Then if we jump off and we just take a look at what GFS has for the rest of us, we get this line tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be probably more cloudier day around, maybe some peaks of sun, but more showers and thunderstorms. Going to feel humid yet again, but that's out ahead of the front. Front will come through, and then essentially this trough is kind of going to be kind of in place as we go on. And essentially what happens is we're going to kind of get into this zonal flow by the weekend as the bottom of the trough kind of flattens out across the Great Lakes into northern New England, and as high pressure essentially comes in, that's what, 1024. High pressure comes in, and the all-important forecast for Saturday night looks to be dry, sunny, seasonable, I would say. Unlike the 2 years ago when this game happened, which I believe it briefly rained or something like that. But tomorrow we'll have a line of storms that will come through somewhere between probably late morning and early evening. The typical threat when you have the digging trough trying to come in is going to be your damaging winds. And also, given that the ground is here so saturated, it's any heavy rain, brief heavy rain will kind of need ponding and even maybe some minor flash flooding in areas that have poor drainage. I was driving yesterday, for instance, up 144 from Pleasant Gap up to Bellefonte, and I noticed several locations as you're going around on the S or the curvy part of the road. Areas still haven't dried out, and there's still puddles, big puddles of water. It wasn't just minor; it was as long as that table, and just amazes me that even with some of the dry periods that we just had, we still couldn't get the water to evaporate. So anything that comes today, then plus any storms that do fire and move through here and don't split us, this area is under the gun for threat for flash flooding and whatnot. Any questions regarding the weather, essentially today through Saturday? Alrighty, so we'll jump into kind of my area. Those who don't know, I work at AccuWeather as a lead forecaster over in Europe. And if we were here last week, much of the discussion would have focused on all the fun activities we were going on with. We had the remains of Hurricane Helene moved through the British Isles. I believe that was Tuesday. And then Wednesday we had Storm Ali, which developed right behind it, and that blasted through Northern Ireland and Scotland with wind gusts up to 90 miles per hour. And then there's another named storm after that, which began with B, but can't pronounce it at all. That kind of, the big threat was rain for parts of Wales and northwestern England with some gusts up to 60. And then finally what happened on Sunday is we had a squall line that went from Paris essentially down to Munich and Prague, and there was a whole slew of wind damage, wind gusts up to 100 miles per hour in parts of Germany, southern Germany. Did some significant damage along with, as usual, when you get those squall lines, you have those spin-up tornadoes. There was some high, those big high power lines that you see. Some of those got wrecked in central Germany on Sunday. But what I'm really focused on, thankfully going to turn into a quiet period this week. You have 1042 high pressure right now, kind of dominating. But what everyone over, whether we over Europe, what you're really looking at is down in the Mediterranean, looking at Thursday. It's this area of low pressure. Oh, Siri thinks I'm talking to her. This area of low pressure down here in the Mediterranean. Last week we had an area of low pressure that kind of stuck between Sicily and Sardinia, that kind of brought flash flooding to northern Sicily and to the eastern coast of Sardinia. That kind of went to Tunisia, and that led to 8 inches of rain in 3 hours and significant flash flooding in the desert area. I think some of that's kind of rotated out, and then it's coming back out into the Mediterranean. As you go through, by Friday we have this low 990 low, which you think, yeah, that's nothing. For the Mediterranean, that is a significant feature, as you can see. Let's see if we can zoom in. We call these things, when they start to fire up like this, medicanes. They're kind of tropical-like features, but without, they're kind of lost. No, that doesn't help me. That's what I'm looking for. There's no one that kind of really monitors the Mediterranean for any tropical development that happens. So they're kind of left to their own regard if anyone says, oh, this meets the criteria of a medicane, which is essentially a tropical cyclone. So it's hard to get. The models always love to spin them up, and you typically see them in wintertime. It's not necessarily see them in summertime. But the models love to spin them up as usual with any big storm, but it's very rare to actually see them. Over the last few years that I have forecasted in Europe, I think I maybe seen 1 or 2. Last week, people thought, oh, this could become a medicane. In reality, it never really did. This one here has the potential. What's funny is I was waiting to see what the 12Z GFS did, because last several days the GFS kind of didn't really develop it and kind of smashed into Greece. Southern Greece brings all the rain, brings a flash flooding to it, while the European developed it and kind of spun it out between Italy and Greece. Thought it might skirt the coast, and then brings it finally, kind of does a loop-de-loop almost, and then finally brings into Greece. Here, it looks like the GFS has gone towards a medicane solution. So does anything really get done in terms of preparations and whatnot? Really no, because there's no entity that will say that this is a medicane. You'll have probably arguments on Twitter as usual about what is going to go on. But what will happen is that parts of Greece, especially Athens, the southern half of Greece, will probably have a flooding threat, especially given the terrain will probably also a flash flooding threat, and increased threat from mudslides. It's been, as usual, it's been a drier summer there. Plus, if you remember, there's some significant fires near Athens this summer that that made the headline news because people got trapped. Any areas of that area that have seen fires, you throw heavy rain on it, on the scar areas, you significantly increase the chance for flooding. So that's what their threat is from essentially, let's say, late Thursday through Sunday at least. is going to be this threat for flooding where areas could see over that span. I can't rule out 10 inches of rain. You think all 10 inches is impossible, and then you think, well, you throw in the upslope areas, and then how some of this stuff could train and just continuously come on shore, just like what we saw with Florence. And then, yes, 10 inches is a possibility. And then finally, it goes off into Istanbul, which will probably lead to another flooding threat. And then potentially what happens across much of Europe, though, is high pressure is dominating. So it's really taking its time to get into the Black Sea. And then it kind of dies off and whatnot. But as long as high pressure remains across much of the heartland of Europe, storm track remains out towards the storm track will remain out towards Iceland and northern Scandinavia, which finally is getting some much relief after a very dry and warm summer. This probably has to be one of the warmest summers, for instance, in Sweden. If you never didn't hear over the summer, they had significant wildfires across from the bottom of Sweden all the way up to the north. It was warm. At least they were running someplace 10 Fahrenheit above normal, whatnot. That's all I have. Any questions about anything?
Are we going to actually warm up at all today?
That's a very good question. Probably when I'm going into work at 1 a.m. Hold on, I don't go in tonight, so never mind. While I'm going to bed. Probably if we can break this. It probably won't be late. It'll probably be typical, the good old-fashioned midnight high type deal. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments for Tyler?
So after this line of showers moves through tomorrow, for Thursday and Friday, should the weather be a little bit sunnier, or should I expect it to be cloudy again?
That's a very good question. I feel like we need to be over the fun to see how many hours of daylight we've had since the second half of July. And sadly, we don't keep count of that. But over in Europe, they love keeping count of that. It'll be very interesting to see how many hours we have of sunlight compared to normal. And I expect we were much below normal.
Yes.
That's
depressing because this is
the time.
This is
Yeah,
when it's
winter
not-
is not sunny here.
yeah. We typically think of it being cloudier mid-October through April.
Yeah, as being like the ideal state college conditions.
So this has been really making me sad that this is already happening.
Well, maybe this means the winter is going to be sunny.
That'd be boring too, though.
I would say there's a Thursday and Friday, there should be some sunshine around. It's not going to be like the typical what it has been much of this summer, late second half summer this month, where it breaks out at 4 o'clock and disappears at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
I think we probably have more like a mix of sun and clouds, definitely for Thursday, Friday, Sunday. Not Sunday, Saturday. I think it should be mostly sun.
Okay.
Even with high pressure, even with kind of a northerly wind, we should definitely be on the probably most sunny side of things. That means we all have to make sure to wear a sunscreen on Saturday.
Absolutely.
First that 7:30 game, man.
Yeah, but if you're tailgating though,
Yeah.
Nobody drinks.
it's up to you. I'll see you walking around.
Oh, I don't even see.
Any other questions? All right, thanks, Tyler. And then next week we'll have Dave Martin from NWS State College.